Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. Oops, wrong button. Okay, can everybody hear me? Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, I think that's good. Alright, welcome guys to the stream. We have Michael Grodel in the chat, welcome back. A common sight. Chase Baker, always good to have you here. Is Nod ready for the impending snowstorm? I hope not. Trevin Lang, good to have you here. Org Luzman, welcome. Just returned from vacation in the Balkans. Yeah, please try not to. Don't dox ourselves in the chats. We have a lot of don't keep any personal information. But good to have you here. Glad you're still safe. I know you. Gosh, I feel like I'm doxing you already. I know you've mentioned before you live in areas of the world that are more dangerous than perhaps areas in the West, so I'm glad you're still doing good. Today we're going to be doing our... Oh, FNJ, welcome to the chat. You're new, I think. Welcome back. We're going to be completing our campaign of GDI, Evolutionary Response, in Command & Conquer Tiberian Sun. Looking forward to this. Yes, Trevin Lane, I did. We neutralized the Northern Nod base. We captured it. We just destroyed, I believe, the second ICBM in the bottom right, or we're about to. Hoping to capture that base as well. Or maybe just destroy it. We'll see how I'm feeling on the day. And then we'll have just the southwestern base to destroy and or capture, get the third ICBM, and then we capture the pyramid and capture Kane. It's been a months-long journey, but we're finally going to defeat the first murderer again. And that's probably all we're going to do. This is probably going to be a shorter stream. And then once that's done, whatever the time we do the next stream, I'll probably start the Nod campaign. And we'll go from there. Looking forward, I'm probably going to complete the Nod campaign and then go to Firestorm and complete those two campaigns. And after that, the sky's the limit. Whatever CNC you guys want to do next. Also, a little late by one day, but happy 30th anniversary to Command & Conquer. On September 26, 1995, the original Command & Conquer, later retconned as Tiberian Dawn, released. A fantastic year, a fantastic day, and of course EA did nothing, not even a social media post, to acknowledge the fact that it is the 30th anniversary of one of the biggest gaming franchises that redefine RTS. Probably even created RTS. I know we technically can't say that about Command & Conquer, because that title belongs to Doom 2, and Blizzard's Warcraft released in between Doom 2 and Command & Conquer, I believe. Trevin Lane says, the power for the island base split between the southeast and southwest islands is on the southwest islands with the Conyard and ACBM. Good to know. I'll see what I can do with my hover MLRSs. Michael Grodel says, man, been playing through Tib Dawn for the anniversary, and it definitely holds up. I've been playing a lot of Tib Dawn as well. As you guys probably know, I'm in the planning stages. I'm still trying to take my break, but, you know, for fun, when I'm trying to rest from, you know, work and stuff like that, I basically will play a lot of Command & Conquer games. And I've been going through Tib Dawn myself, basically, not just for fun, but also for research, because the next video essay I'm going to be doing is a big one on the First Tiberium War. And I just finished the GDI campaign again, and I'm going through the Nod one and trying to pick up all the bits of lore and everything. And yeah, I definitely think Red Alert 1 has aged better. I think that Red Alert 1 plays more like all the future Command & Conquer games, whereas Tiberian Dawn sometimes can feel like a puzzle game where you have to remember the exact kind of things you gotta do to cheese certain levels, especially on the higher difficulties. but still a ton of fun, and I still love the atmosphere and story of Tiberium Dawn. It's one of those games that I feel like has a very atmospheric and specific vibe, a very 90s vibe. Similar to how Tiberian Sun has a very specific vibe. It's a different vibe, but it's still really good. Let's see. Org Luzman says, want to say that I forgot to take you in your previous stream that, next day we crossed the border to Bosnian city, Sarajevo. Oh! And 2 days later, King Landing Western. Nice! Yeah. At the end of the GDI campaign in Tiberian Dawn, they mentioned the whole reason for the Sarajevo thing is because it's supposed to call back to what happens at the beginning of World War I with Gavril Princip assassinating Archduke Ferdinand and starting a world war. And saying that they're stopping Kane from doing it again, which seems to imply that the war between GDI and Nod and Tiberian Dawn is not a full world war in the sense that we would think of it. It is still very much almost, I don't want to say a shadow war, but it is very much like a side war between GDI as an organization and Nod as a terrorist organization. And that seems to line up with what we see, because we don't ever, and part of this is the limitation of the tech at the time, but we're not seeing any actual like attacking of cities, and for the most part, any civilians that are like outlying villages and things like that. This seems to be almost like a shadow war, and they're trying to stop Kane from blowing it up to a much bigger war that would involve all the other nations, which makes sense why they would feel comfortable defunding GDI in the middle of a war, because to a lot of other nations, it's not an existential threat. It's just, this war going on that some people view GDI started. Trevin Lane says, the power island is guarded by lots of Nod units, and an obelisk is best approached by the air. I used Orca bombers to clear the LZ, then dropped a Mammoth Mark II. That's right. I think I remember that. I remember using carryalls when I played this years ago. Michael Grodel, yeah, Tib Dawn couldn't be made with any other age or any other team. For sure. Panzer 1509 says, what is a serial modem? Oh, man, I barely know what that is, man. I don't think I'm even quite old enough to be able to explain that to you super well. Maybe my older siblings could. Trevin Land says, you will need stealth detection nearby. The island bases are cloaked. Gotcha. All right, well, then without further ado, let's get back in. Hopefully this shouldn't take too long. Okay, so we destroyed all the power plants, and we still have this here, but I think the strategy was we didn't want to destroy the ICBM until the last possible moment, so we have as much time as possible to do what we need to do. And this base doesn't seem like it's that well defended. Can we build an obelisk of light or lasers? Let's build some lasers. Okay, you're weird. Warhawk Rambo says, I'm on vacation but have internet. Oh, glad you're able to be on vacation. I need a vacation. That's for dang certain. Yeah, get lasered, losers. What? You outrange it? What do you mean you outrange it? Ah. Outrange it, my butt. Michael Groto says, if you do finish the release of the first Tib War essay, it would be intriguing to have you explore the balance of power between the different countries in GDI and Nod. Yeah, I hope to as well. Just kind of have to see where that lies. Alright, let's build some more. You guys. Yeah, it's interesting, because, like I said, it seems like most countries are kind of not directly involved. Because there's a point where, like, GDI directly... Like, Nod takes over all of Germany at a certain point in the campaign. And if that happened, like, if that was a legit takeover, like, Nod... Oh my... What the shrimp? Okay, you know what? Fine, just go, just go, just go, just go. Alright, we're gonna strategic bombing run. Strategic bombing run. And let's go. There we go. That's how we do it this side of Denmark. Okay. That's precisely why I got you guys. Alright, enough of this. Enough, I say. Anyway. Yeah, like, if Nod had actually taken over all of Germany, as is shown by the map, the mission map, like, actually marched into Berlin, there is no circumstance where the UN is like, we're gonna defund you, or, you know what, let's just, this isn't that big of a deal. Because Nod would have actually been seen as an unequivocally a real threat. And there wouldn't be a situation of like, oh, we need to stop Kane from starting another world war. It's happening. There's a world war. They've taken over Berlin, you know. So I think that when Nod takes over a country, as shown in the mission map, I think that's more of Nod has infiltrated that territory. They have control of the outlying areas. They have bases there. And they're now, you know, starting to manipulate that country. I don't think it's like... And same thing with GDI. I don't think GDI is actually, like, taking over African nations. I think they just have a military presence there, and they have more control of it than Nod does. And I think it has to be that way, because otherwise nothing else makes sense. Anyway. Org Glusman said, I was where Franz Ferdinand was shot. I even took pictures with my mom. Oh, awesome. I absolutely adore history. I would love to go to Europe someday and just go to a lot of historical places. That would be so cool. First, though, I got to go to like the East Coast of the United States and see a lot of like Civil War sites, or go to Boston and see like a lot of Revolutionary War areas. That is the dream someday. Maybe I'll go with Mrs. Snowman someday. But that's really cool, Orgrisman. Love that. The Almighty Snark says, good evening, everyone. Good to have you, Almighty Snark. Glad you could make it. Let's have you guys. And let's build more helipads, because we are going to need... we're going to need some carryalls. Alright, too bad I don't have juggernauts yet. I don't have any juggies. Okay. Do I have my ion cannon? I do have my ion cannon. Let's also build some more Hovel MLRSs so we can destroy this. If the ion cannon isn't enough, we can always save as well. Get your butt down here, buddy. We're just going to start building more Titans. And that's going to be the name of the game, because Titan Rush is the name of the game until Firestorm, where we get some more toys to play with. Command & Conquer Saga says, hey there, Snowman. Good to have you. Good to have you. Chase Baker says, Panzer, a serial modem was a kind of more hands-on internet technology that has to be installed into the computer itself to be able to communicate over phone lines. That's right, it was over phone lines, which is why it would make a sound like there were 100 digital ghosts screaming in agony whenever it got set up. If you're familiar with that sound, you've probably heard that as a meme over the years. Romanoff, welcome to the chat. Intrusive thoughts tell you to sell the mammoth tanks. That's right, I always forget that you can sell things, units, when they're over the repair area. It turns green, I think, which means it was actually an intended feature, which is crazy. Let's build some more Hopper MLRSs, and let's also build some carryalls and an Orca bomber, because why not? Michael Grodel says, I always picture the war between GDI and Nod being between themselves and the individual nations not fighting each other. That's why Shepard wants to end the war before GDI fight each other. Exactly, Michael Grodel. That's exactly how I'm featuring. After having played it recently, and apparently you have as well, I feel like that's all it can be. It has to be that. Like, there's nothing else it could be. Or else there wouldn't be any talks about possibly defunding GDI. There wouldn't be talks about starting a new world war. It's kind of a weird, almost proxy war between these nations, and I think that's super cool because, you know, it makes it a unique war that has never really been fought before. It's almost like if the UN had created, you know, a GDI-ish niche organization, and like ISIS. ISIS is like the closest recent example I can think of, like a terrorist organization that's going across borders and taking over multiple territories. But like if ISIS was more effective and wasn't just taking over, the Middle East, but also taking over Eastern Europe and Africa, and it became that big of a problem, but nations didn't want to go put their forces on the ground, so they created a UN peacekeeping force to basically deal with it. That's the best way I can explain it. And I think that's how I'm going to present it in the video, because I think that's accurate. Where is... Gosh, the component towers are so hard to use!
Sir, yes, sir.
Somebody thought this was a cool idea. And on paper it is. In practice, not so much. Not so much. Alright, I think we're done building those, so let's build more Titans.
Building.
Unit ready. Moving out.
Unit prepared.
Sorry guys, this is going to be a little boring because I'm mostly just going to be building up forces. Just keep an eye on the timer, because I'm going to forget. Thank you guys 5. Thank you guys 6. And I'll make you guys 4. Oh, we're starting to run low on money, are we?
Unit ready.
Interesting.
Sir, orders received. Unit reporting.
Yeah. Anyway. Michael Grohl says, the nations are helping GDI but aren't part of them. Right. Trevor Lane says, makes sense to me, Snowman. Of course. Unit lost. What unit lost? Okay, can somebody stop you guys from, like... Oh, shoot. Where's my lasers?
Building.
Sir, on my way. Waiting order. No. Unit, yes, sir. You got it.
Construction complete.
Lasers to the face! Thank you.
Construction complete. Unit lost. Unit ready. Unit lost. Construction complete.
Hey, wait a minute. This harvester's not doing anything. I guess I sent him on a wild goose chase. Oh, wow. I forgot that I did that. I should be paying more attention to missile launches. Alright. More Titans! And we got 7 minutes. So, we'll keep an eye on that. Real talk, though, Romanov says. Remember when Cabal mentioned that the Philadelphia is also armed with some kind of weapon in the final Nod mission? Have any personal ideas of what it could have been? I don't remember that. It's been a while since I played through the Nod campaign of Tiberian Sun. Not really sure. I assume it's some sort of missile defense system or anti-missile defense system that's on board the Philadelphia itself. I imagine that would be a nightmare to maintain in space, which is probably why in the Tiberium Wars timeline, by the time we get to 2047, they've moved all of their ASAT defense grid to the ground to make it ground-based, which is what allows Nod to destroy it and then nuke the Philadelphia. So if I had to guess, I would say it's some sort of anti-missile defense grid that's on board the Philadelphia itself and is a nightmare to maintain. Because that seems to be... Oh, wow, I have a lot of Titans. I don't think I need any more. I think that makes the most sense, because the whole theme by the time we get to Tiberium Wars is that, like, we're trying to cut costs, even if it means less effective stuff. Let's go ahead and see if we can just destroy this, and then we'll go from there. Command and Conquer Saga says, I'm Alex from CNC Saga and one of the CNC community organizers. We've organized the 30th anniversary community celebration. Tell us, man, do you have a Discord server email we can reach out to? Oh! Yeah, no, I think I remember seeing that that video announcement. You were the only guys that actually like acknowledged the 30th anniversary. I do not have a Discord. I probably should. I mean, I don't have a Discord server. I do have a Discord. Do you have a Discord server? I do not have a Discord server. An email. I do have an email I can reach out to you. Is there a way I can privately communicate with you so that I can... I think YouTube might have a feature to, like, privately DM people. I don't really know how to use that. But sure, I would love to be a part of anything going on in the 30th anniversary if you guys will have me. Or Bluesman said, I must say that somebody said the Prairie Yoba was the previous week. The Temple of Nod's kind of overrated and impressive as King Watch, I believe. Yeah, I guess. Trevin Lane says, with power down, the south base should be breachable. They're defended by multiple obelisks of light. Got it. All right, let's see if we can destroy this. Alley-oop. Yeah! First try. All right.
Waiting orders. Waiting orders, sir. Unit reporting. Unit ready. Unit ready.
Let's go.
Orders. Yes, sir.
Let's freaking go.
Yes, sir. On my way.
I was on the subreddit for Command & Conquer a little while ago, and I saw somebody mentioning that, like, oh, the whole idea about the lost source code, it may magically reappear. Look, here's the source. And I'm like, that sounds familiar. I look up the link, and it's my video with Joe Bostic, and I'm like, oh, wow.
Yes, sir.
I'm actually starting to be mentioned in the subreddit. I mean, a few times people have reposted my Tiberian Sun video because it's my biggest one, and then somebody else reposted my Cabal video. But yeah, power down obelisks. But it is funny starting to show up in the subreddit because I still kind of feel like I'm just a guy talking about my favorite franchise, and it's kind of funny to see myself mentioned like that because I got completely lucky that Joe Bostic showed up in my chat, if that was Joe Bostic.
On my way. You got it.
So that was cool. That was cool.
You got it.
I'm glad we can all still center around this franchise that we all love so much, even though it's functionally dead.
No problem.
But I could think of few other communities that are kept that much alive by their fan base.
On my way.
You know, I'm gonna try and capture this stuff and see what we can do here. All right.
Building. Training.
Sir.
No match for the Titans. No match for the Titans.
On my way.
Is there anything else over here?
Yes, sir.
Curious.
Unit
No
ready.
problem.
Command & Conquer Saga says, reach out to that email address or add Alex06 on Discord and you can join the CNC Saga Discord. I'll post a link after.
Yes, sir.
Sure, awesome. I would love to. That sounds amazing.
Yes, sir. Orders received.
I will do that after the stream.
You got it.
Okay, it doesn't look like there's anything in the way of, like,
On my way.
a construction yard unless it's being cloaked. So I guess I'll just capture the refineries because I do need more money.
Yes, sir. Moving out. On my way. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Sorry if I'm not reading the chat. Yep, classic Mammoth Tank or Guzman.
Sir.
My money is on the missiles or ion cannon. Yeah, it could be. I don't think it's the ion cannon because the ion cannon still exists in CNC 3. I mean, maybe that was the intention because obviously the Westwood people didn't know that was going to be the. Gosh dang it!
Primary building set.
Wait, can I build a amphibious or a? No, I can't. Can I? Maybe I can. I completely forgot that I can build non-stuff now.
Unit ready. Orders received. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Romanov says, you don't like playing on game speed 5? No, this is the speed I always played as a kid. I like the slower, methodical pace. This is one of the few CNCs where I feel like I can play super slow, methodically, deliberately, and turtle, and the game really won't punish me for it, because this is before CNC gets like really effective air for the most part. This is before, you know, super weapons are so huge they destroy entire bases and need to be destroyed. This is at a time where GDI can build, you know, Firestorm defenses and be able to block a super weapon. Like, good grief, being able to block a super weapon? How come that idea has never come back in RTSs? That's such an innovative and cool idea. Like, this is one of the few games I feel like that is like, yeah, you can turtle and we won't punish you for it. I feel like a lot of the newer RTSs are like, no, you gotta play our way. You gotta be able to move out, find other Tiberium sources, and we don't like you turtling. You shouldn't play like that. And I hate games that do that. That's why I think I like Age of Empires so much, specifically Age of Empires 3 and Age of Mythology, because there's a lot of other sources of income you can get, and it lets you turtle. That's why I like Generals a lot, because it was the first CNC that gave you an alternate form of income besides the main resource that you can get in the late game that lets you actually
On my way. Waiting orders received.
turtle, you know? It's like, respect me, let me turtle.
Affirmative.
I want to
Engineering.
turtle.
Affirmative.
I shouldn't be not allowed to turtle.
No problem. Sir? Yes, sir. No problem.
I feel like that's not an unreasonable ask.
No problem.
Okay, whichever one it goes into, we're going to capture it.
Yes, sir.
No, oh no!
No problem.
Wolverine, save me!
Yes, sir. No problem. Affirmative. Affirmative.
And... boom.
Problem.
Building
Waiting
captured.
orders.
That's how we do it on this side
Affirmative.
of East Texas.
Base under attack.
By the way, I'm just saying random names. I do not live in East Texas.
Loud and clear. Sir?
Shoot.
Waiting orders.
Get over here.
Moving out.
That is a quick pit stop. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get there in time.
Sir, on my way. Yes, sir.
Ah! Gosh dang it. Alright, we'll wait for you to come back.
Loud and clear.
Okay. Michael Roto says Soviet mammoth tanks and GDI mammoth tanks are at least 30 to 40 years apart, so I think GDI took inspiration, but they aren't the same tank. No, probably not. Oh, look at old Nod base. Yeah, no, almost certainly not. I mean, it's like the light tank from the Allies, and then you have the light tank that Nod uses, like you said, 30 to 40 years later. Clearly not the same light tank. Couldn't be. Because if it was,
Waiting orders.
that would make a lot of sense. And they do look visually different, both in the original version and in the remaster. Weed eater. Alright. Let's move on. We've got places to conquer. And we need to get more scouting done, because I need to see what's going on in that base.
Received. Yes, sir.
Can we capture these old bases? I'm just curious. No, we can't. Alright, well then we'll just destroy it.
Sir?
Yeah, let's build an obelisk of light. Why the heck not? Oh, look, an old Temple of Nod. Now, I hadn't played Tiberian Dawn when I first played Tiberian Sun, because my earliest Command and Conquer was Red Alert 1. So none of this meant anything to me when I was a kid.
On my way.
Now it does.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Moving out.
Alright. Doesn't look like there's any way over, but I'm just going to explore some more.
Yes, sir.
Trevor Lane says you could use the burrowing APCs to attack the Nod southeast base, knocking out the AA. You mean the southwest?
Orders received.
That's a good idea. Chase Baker says Supreme Commander is the same vein of play your way, though on much, much larger scale, complete with super weapon counter defensive structures. That's pretty cool. You destroyed the Renegade Cairo Temple. No.
Orders received.
Oh, that's a good point. Is that supposed? Because we're in Cairo.
You got it.
That's a really good point. Was Abel's temple somewhere under there? Ah,
Orders received.
okay.
Yes, sir.
Alright, there's a bridge there. I just got to be careful because bridges can be destroyed. Alright, let's get you guys up here. I want to explore what's going on up here. And let's get you guys up here. Command and Conquer Saga says, RA1 was my first as well. Yeah, no, I think it was a lot of people's first. And it's kind of amazing that that's what we get to see. Can I build a... I'm curious. Am I missing something in the tech tree? I'm wondering why I can't build a missile silo. Am I missing anything? No, I guess not. Guess they just won't let me build it. Yeah, I'll build a stealth generator, what the heck.
Unit reporting.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Chase Baker. There is a little bit of that in Tiberian Wars as well, which I really appreciate.
Yes, sir.
Warhawk Rambo, RA1 was my first alternate history media. Oh, yeah.
Orders received. On my orders received. Yes, sir.
Anti-air unit! Anti-air unit!
On my way. Yes, sir. On my way.
Okay, so it's on this island, so we're gonna need carryalls or something, because I think it's all completely cliff-bound, right? As far as I'm aware.
Building.
Well, that's just rude. I never clocked that these are supposed to be helicopters. Because there's no propellers, but in the cutscenes they clearly are. But obviously, in these old graphics, they apparently couldn't design propellers for them.
Unit reporting. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Construction.
Yeah, rotor. That's the proper word. Okay.
Unit ready.
Let's try and figure out as much as we can. Just go around the edges here.
Orders received.
Unit ready. Building.
We do not have a Mammoth Mark II, so let's build one. What else are we building?
On my way. On my way.
Yeah, let's build more power.
Orders received.
Org Luzman says, something I noticed in RA1 is that the Allied uniforms, some are like Allied uniforms from our history of World War II, besides one that are gray like the German uniforms from World War II. Yeah, I think somebody was telling me that Gunther von Essling, the German Supreme Commander of the Allied forces in Red Alert 1, is basically wearing elements of a...
Sir, on my way.
Basically wearing elements of a West German uniform, which is interesting.
Waiting orders. On my way. Unit ready.
Really? Is that how we're playing this?
Sir, on my way.
Don't even have the guts to send me send banshees my way. Okay, I did not know that's where they came from. Gosh, that's so freaking cool. What's your guys' favorite like final base for Nod? Is it Cairo or Sarajevo? I'm curious.
Building.
Alright, where did I... Okay. We're just gonna keep this going, okay?
Construction.
And we'll build more
Unit ready.
Orca bombers, why not? Trevin Lane says obelisk on the south side of the southwest island. Yep, caught that. Nisi Ann says, hello, Snowman. In the RTS game Active Aggression, you can actually build anti-super weapon weapons. It's the only RTS game I know that has that feature. Interesting.
Waiting orders. On my way.
I'll have to check that out. I also keep hearing about Active War. I probably should check that out as well.
Waiting orders.
It's over here. The Almighty Snark says, you spooked him!
Moving out.
Romanov says, actually, it was the real East German uniform because those uniforms sold for cheap post-Berlin Wall collapse. Oh, interesting. Did any of you guys follow the YouTube channel Fern?
On my way.
They're kind of like a documentary channel, but like on very specific things. They recently did a video on what it was like to live in East Germany under the Stasi, and that just
Orders received.
an absolute surveillance state, and it just seemed like
Yes, sir.
the lowest levels of purgatory, just completely awful to live
Yes,
under.
sir. Yes, sir.
Nope.
Orders received.
Is there another obelisk over here? If not, you know, we might be able to do this with the combined arms of the carryalls, the Orca bombers, and a lot
On my way.
of MLRSs. So I think that's how I'm going to do this.
Orders received.
Let's get you over here. And let's build some MLRSs. And we're not going to stop. Alright, let's get you over here.
Sir.
Let's go over here. I love that the carryall can even carry something as humongous as the Mark II walker. That's just incredible to me. I love that. I can't remember who it was, but somebody was commenting like, oh, well, who cares about their huge Mark II? It can't... Oh my gosh, it's flying towards me! And there goes my monitor. I really hope it's not deciding to do this again to me. My monitor's been having issues before. It kind of blacks out for a few seconds and then comes back. It really had better not be doing that because I don't want to have to deal with that today. And it's doing it again. Okay. You guys can see just fine, but my monitor is having a cow right now, so I'm going to see if I can unplug the HDMI and replug it in and see if that solves anything.
Unit ready. Unit ready.
Come on. Come back to life. Romanov says, well, it was being propped up by the USSR to be a military state first and foremost, and if any conflict with NATO started, so yeah, mass surveillance parts as well as being a giant Soviet military base. Yeah, indeed, and I believe there was a Soviet commander who was put in charge of East Germany and basically viewed it as his own, basically, petri dish for how to run surveillance states. Ugh. I think we talked about this before, but the more I learn about the history aftermath of World War II and the Civil War, the more it kind of depresses me because, like for the American Civil War, it's like, yeah, we freed the slaves, but then after that we have sharecropping and we have the Jim Crow laws. And are you going to do anything with them? You know, and you have all this, you know, the Ku Klux Klan running rampant for a lot of the years afterwards. And it's just kind of crazy that we may have won the war, but in a lot of ways, the South won the peace. And that's kind of depressing because we kind of only did Reconstruction for like a couple of decades, and then we kind of got sick of it, and people in the North were like, we don't really want to do this anymore. And kind of just left the freedmen in the South out to dry, which is just very depressing, and as much as I love Civil War history and everything, it's kind of hard to feel good about it knowing what comes after. And then similarly with World War II, it's like, yes, we defeated the Nazis, awesome, and then like half of Europe falls under Stalinist Soviet Union. I mean, I think it gets a bit better once Stalin's gone, but like, still not great. And, you know, it's just a little depressing. But I guess that's real world history. Everything doesn't always get wrapped up in a neat little bow once the war's over. I suppose that's true even in C&C, because, you know, after Tiberian Dawn, it's like, yeah, we defeated Nod, and then you spend the next couple decades just dealing with Tiberium slowly eating your planet alive. And then Tiberian Sun, yeah, we defeated Kane, and then, like, not even a year later, oh, oops, it's Cabal. Also, year later, and we will not live in a planet that can support human life anymore. I guess the only war that kind of ended well was the Third Tiberium War. Depending on what happens after that. If the Tiberium timeline, as in the Tiberium FPS timeline happens, then not that long afterwards, we get a second Scrin invasion, so... Humanity cannot catch a break. Okay. Trevor Lane says, you can queue up orcas without the helipad being built. I know, I just like having helipads made. Let's build some more. Why not? Why not? I got the money. Org Luzman says, Light Tank and Red Alert 1 are based on the M41 tank in the original 2, but the original version, Westwood simply reusing a render of Nod's Light Tank from Tiberian Dawn. So they remaster, they fix it. Interesting. Yeah, I like the way that the light tanks look in the remastered version, both for the allies and Nod. I just think that it looks a lot better instead of the bubble turrets. The bubble turrets had their charm, don't get me wrong, but they definitely look more professional now. Alright, we got some time. We got some time. We can play with our food. This is definitely, for a final mission, way easier than the Ion Storm mission just prior to this. Ugh. Romanov. Ah, good. He knows that both wars are decades apart from each other instead of 7 years. Yeah, you guys know, for these live streams, I let you guys have a sneak peek of what the videos are ahead because you guys show up. Totally cool. So I'm not going to bury the lead. I think the idea that there are 10 years in between the end of Tiberian Dawn and Tiberian Sun to be patently ridiculous. Now, this is aside from all the objective evidence, which I am going to go to. But as far as my personal beliefs, I think that is just the most ridiculous notion that there ever could be, that those wars are that close apart. And I know some people argue that, like, oh, but also it doesn't make sense that there's only like 5 years max that Tiberium has to spread from landing in 1995 to the war starting in the late 90s, to which I say, it's an alien substance. It can spread as fast as it wants to. Whereas human development and human culture and human technology does have a timeline, and it is absolutely ridiculous that we go from Abrams tanks to Titans in the span of 10 years. Also, that all of the nations of the world completely disappear and GDI becomes a super state in just 10 years. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. I also think everything up until at the latest the year 2000 from Westwood devs makes it extremely clear that they absolutely intended for this to be just to have, for the First Tiberium War to take place in the last part of the 20th century. Absolutely clear. We only have one piece of evidence that it takes place in the 21st century, and that's the Renegade Manual, where it mentions twice that it takes place in 2020. And I just feel like the weight of evidence, I'm not going to discount the Renegade evidence. I'm not just going to say it was a typo. I have things to say about that I will say in the video that I'm going to make. But to say that, oh, we have this one piece of evidence in the Renegade Manual, and that's going to invalidate everything that the devs have been saying, everything that previous manuals have been saying, and we're just going to go with the Renegade one, is just ridiculous to me. And I know that Tiberium Wars seems like it might be going with that timeline, but I have my arguments against that as well. But also, that's EA, okay? We're going with Westwood. This is the one... I'm not going to say the one thing, because I'm passionate about other things in the CNC universe that I find absolutely ridiculous. You guys know I'm very passionate about the idea that the Allied ending of Red Alert is what leads into Tiberian Dawn, not the Soviet Union ending. There's a couple of other things I'm very passionate about for literally no reason. But this is one of those things where I'm just like, come on, people. Come on. Again, if you believe that the war started in 2019, totally fine. You're entitled to your opinion. I don't think you're an idiot. This is something I'm weirdly passionate about for some reason. Okay, there, rant over. What does the chat have to say? Trevor Lane says, EA should have stayed with the Scrin storyline and made a proper CNC4. Shame there was no sequel. Yeah, no, it's a shame it ended after Kane's Wrath. I really would have liked to have known what had happened once the Tacitus was inserted into Legion. Org Glusman says, the first Tib War 1999 to 2002 is what I say. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. 1997 to 2000 also could work, but I think 1999 to 2002 makes a little bit more sense because it gives a bit more time for Tiberium to proliferate. Michael Grollo says, Nod also spread Tiberium a lot after the meteorite hit the First Tib War. Yeah, that's true, which is actually mentioned at the beginning of the Nod campaign of Tiberium Wars, where, I can't remember her name, but the Nod commander, she specifically says that after Tiberium landed, and they exposed GDI as the real terrorists, then they tried to spread Tiberium as much as possible, and then 2 world wars. That's another thing. People try to take that comment and say, oh, we exposed GDI as the real terrorists. That means in 2019... Good grief. Can you guys hear that? There's a plane flying overhead. Okay, we should be able to attack soon. I'm thinking we should... Yeah. Okay. Let's make you guys our main force. Let's get you guys over here. Anyway, Trevor Lane says, you could use those jump jet troopers to reveal the shroud on the islands. I could. Sacrificial soldiers, go. Command and Conquer Saga. I think the lore of Tiberium being everywhere was that GDI spread it because they thought it wasn't that dangerous at first and not spread it because it's their interest too. Yeah, actually, having gone over again Tiberian Dawn, I realized I don't think it's GDI. There's several things talking about what the timing on that. Oh no, you idiots! Why would you do that? Oh my gosh, you guys are grade A idiots.
Yes, sir.
Let's build some of these.
Unit lost. Unit ready.
Waiting order. You got
Go
it.
down some more. I'd like to see more down. Thank you.
Unit lost.
Basically, what I gathered from the subtext of the Tiberian Dawn campaign is that everybody was trying to cover up that Tiberium might be dangerous because it was making them so much money.
Unit
And I think it really wasn't until GDI funded research was actually what revealed that Tiberium was a problem and that there were people dying and getting sick. So I think GDI was the one always trying to deal with Tiberium, and the rest of the world was basically like, let's cover this up because we're making so much money off of this. So I would say unscrupulous corporations were the ones also spreading it in the early days along with Nod. And granted, Nod actually did control a lot of those unscrupulous corporations early on, so that makes sense. Okay, it's right there. Alright, we're going to have to go now. It's now or never, guys. Command Carter Saga. I personally think that with the Renegade, Westwood was maybe thinking of rebooting part of the story of CNC, thus the 2020 date. From the devs I've talked to, it seemed like Ren was a soft reboot of CNC. Oh, really? I would love to hear more about that. That sounds amazing. Because I feel like, based off of all the interviews I've watched, at least up until the year 2000, everybody was pretty much in agreement that the war started in the late 1990s. The first mention we get of that is Renegade in 2000, 2001. So it's possible. My point being that there's only two options: either it was a retcon or it was a mistake. There's no other. There's no scenario where that was always the plan, that the war started in the 2020.
Sir.
Okay.
Waiting order.
You know what? Close enough. Close enough.
unit ready. Unit repaired.
Romanov says, Adam Isgreen said that they saw the Allied campaign as canon for RA1, and considering he was a co-creator and main designer, I think it isn't really hard to understand the Allied campaign leading to Tip Dawn. Wouldn't make sense for Nod to keep purchasing US gear if they already had God knows how many leftovers from the Soviet surplus, if the Soviet campaign was canon, not to mention the Iron Curtain still existing. Yes, exactly. That's my biggest problem with the idea of the Soviet Union living, is like, you already control all of Europe. Why would you give that up to become a decentralized terror state? You've won. You hold all of Europe in your hands. There's no reason not to keep that control. So, sorry. Again, I'm getting passionate about that. Yeah, retcon is what I'm thinking of as well. Yeah, that's yeah. Because I know some people think that it's a typo, but there's two places it mentions the 2020 date. At the beginning, and then later on it mentions, oh, the file name is like
Yes, sir.
2020-3-12, which is the same date given, March 13, 2020. So as much as I would like it to be a typo, personally, as my bias, objectively, I don't think I can say it's a typo since it was in two places in the manual. If it was only in one place, I might say, that's a typographical error. It was supposed to be 2002. But since it happened twice, I think it was intentional. My only question then is, like, because when I talked with Joe Bostic, assuming it was really Joe Bostic in my chat about a month ago, he mentioned, oh, I don't know about the whole Able Tomb thing because that was the Renegade team and they were down the hall from us and we didn't interact with them a ton. So it's possible that there was a miscommunication, that this was a mistake. I don't think it was a typo, but it's either a retcon or it was a mistake, but I don't think it was a typo. Trevor Lane, 2 orc bombers can kill most anything. This airplane above your house is not and planning on bombing you for being from a GDI house. They've seen my flag. Okay, I probably waited too long, but let's go. Alright, let's take 2 or 3 of you and destroy the obelisk.
On my way.
And then let's find my ion cannon, and then let's go.
On my way.
There we go.
You got it. No problem. On my way. Yes,
Let's
sir.
go.
On my way.
Da, 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 da.
On my way.
Unit lost.
Moving out.
You know, I know the MLRSs have paper armor, and they're very expensive, but
On my way.
dang if they're not amazing in mass.
Select
Kablamo!
Unit ready.
Owned.
unit
And Remember that word?
Yes, sir.
We've done it. The Philadelphia is safe for at least another 15 years. Oh, boy.
No problem.
Lost.
Yes, sir.
Aha!
Orders received. Yes, sir.
All right, where's the construction yard?
Unit lost.
No problem. Waiting orders. Yes,
All right,
sir.
just look for the places they're going to go around.
You got it.
There we go. Yeah!
Yes, sir.
Let's go! Woohoo! Romanov says, hard to contact him, but Cypher was a comm member whose fan Lordox CNC cannon was used by Westwood staff, and he helped with them making the cannon for CNC before EA fully took over. Oh, interesting. Michael Grodel, wait, were the Renegade devs new devs or former Tib Dawn devs? I think they were still old Westwood devs. It's just the team split because they were working on a lot of different projects. There was the MMO they were trying to get off the ground, Earth and Beyond, Renegade. The Red Alert 2 team was a brand new team. There was a lot of different teams that started splitting up once they started really getting off the ground. So I don't think it was a brand new team the way that Red Alert 2 was, but there was a degree of separation because everybody was busy on different projects. And at least the impression I got from Joe Bostic was that like lore was less of an importance as they were trying to deal with like business stuff and development stuff.
Yes, sir.
So I can definitely see something like that slipping through the cracks. But that's not evidence. That's just copium from me because I really, really don't like the idea of the First Tiberium War taking place anywhere but the late 90s or early 2000s. I despise that idea. Video Crow's Nest says, oh my gosh, the Nod's back. Nod planes are back.
Yes, sir. On my way.
Anyway, Video Crow's Nest says Nod really didn't want the lid blown off Tiberium being dangerous because it meant suddenly voluntarily getting to spread Tiberium was less likely to occur. Yes, exactly, which is why they didn't like Mobius and all of that and were trying to get him killed. Because Mobius, although initially complicit with like, oh, Tiberium isn't harmful, eventually figured out the truth and then tried to spread it and get information and help people who were sick because of Tiberium. So,
On my way.
yeah, there's that. Yeah, if I remember correctly, the Nod mission for this was harder. Okay. Command and Conquer Saga. Funny fact, the 2028 date for GDI getting a Tacit Tiberium Wars is because EALA used an old, outdated Tiberian Sun story Bibles reference, which had the 2028 date. Yes, if I remember correctly, that actually is a genuine mistake. Because GDI definitely got a hold of the Tacitus at the end of the Second Tiberium War, or if you want to be technical, they lost it to Cabal and then got it back. So these things are more common than people think. Exactly. So, like, I find it very hard to be like, oh, we found this one reference of 2020. It's canon now, guys. To me, it's like, okay, that's our first explanation and not there was a mistake in communication. Like, that just seems weird that that's the first thing we go to.
Waiting orders.
Okay. Chase Baker. The two great meta lore bits of HSC Snowman Gaming. The Soviet victory does not lead to Tiberian Dawn, and when Joe Bostic spoke, assuming it's the real Joe Bostic. I just want to cover my butt. Like, personally, I am like 99% certain that was the real Joe Bostic. I just want to cover my butt in case it comes out that it was an elaborate prank and I've been giving you guys false information. I do want to be honest with you guys that I don't know for 100% sure that it was the real Joe Bostic, even if I personally am pretty convinced that it was. So, I'm covering my butt, I'm covering your guys' butts. Alright, let's see what we can do. Let's get the Titans back up here. I want to end this with the Titans. Command and Conquer Saga. The Tiberian Sun Story Bible is available on the CNC Wiki and goes into the Scrin's background, origins, and motivations, as well as other alien faction the Scrin fought Ians before. Yes, I've read that. It's absolutely fascinating. Obviously, we can't take it for complete canon because it's got some things that contradict with what's presented in Tiberian Sun when it's eventually released. But it does give a lot of interesting ideas as to what they thought, what Westwood's idea of the Scrin would have been, which I think is absolutely fascinating because specifically what you're saying, originally the Tacitus was supposed to be compiled by another alien species that was victim to the Scrin and Tiberium, and they knew that they were too late and that they weren't going to be able to do anything to defeat the Scrin and Tiberium, so they compiled all of the data that they had on Tiberium and the Scrin and sent it off to the next planet they knew was the Scrin's next target, Earth. And to me, that's kind of my headcanon now. I don't think it contradicts with anything, and I think that is the best explanation for what the Tacitus is, because I don't think it's a Scrin artifact. I don't think it makes any sense for the Scrin to have helpful information that was sent to humanity. It makes more sense if it was a previous victim of the Scrin and Tiberium that is doing this. Command & Conquer Saga says, a mix of OG devs and new peeps. Oh, as opposed... Are you talking about the Renegade devs? Interesting. Thank you for confirming that. I did not know.
Orders received.
Romanov says, takes away from Tiberian Dawn's setting, giving them anything in return remotely. So yeah, agreed.
On my way.
I love the squishing sound effect. It's just more satisfying to run something over with a walker than it is with a tank. You know what I'm saying?
No problem.
Video Crow's Nest says, the second species actually alluded to in Tib War is an intelligence database entry where the Scrin used the word brother Scrin ascended per GDI supercomputer's translation.
Orders received.
That's right, and I think a No Strings production video talked about that a bit as well,
Moving out.
which is interesting.
Silos needed.
And of course, Scrin may not even be the real name for the Scrin. That's just, like he said, the name that the GDI supercomputer translators came up with. But the Scrin don't refer to themselves as the Scrin. And obviously Nod calls them the Visitors. GDI either calls them the Scrin or the Aliens. Let's get some engineers over here.
Engineering. Affirmative.
Romanov says, actually it's used for when they took the Tacitus and then appeared more some of the Untold logs in Tiberian War, such as GDI's Foundation History log. Interesting.
Yes, sir.
Michael Grodel, also random lore idea, the UN is formed due to Japan's militarism since Hitler's death doesn't affect that too much, and the West strengthens the League of Nations as a result. Yes, I think I remember you commenting and other people commenting as well, because I discovered that, like, wait, the UN exists before this new World War II? How does that make sense? And you all were making the point that the Pacific War absolutely still happened in the Red Alert universe, because you don't need the funny mustache man to
Awaiting orders.
have that happen. So that makes total sense to me.
No problem. Engineering.
Which makes me want a Red Alert 1 mod where we actually get to see the Pacific War with the US versus basically a proto-Empire of the Rising Sun. I think that would be so freaking cool. Romanov says, are you aware of Westwood's Tiberium incursion CNC3? I am. I remember looking at the photos and renders for what Westwood was considering to be their next CNC, and I thought it looked so cool. And I was so disappointed when that didn't come through, but happy when Tiberium War still happened. And now I'm kind of just wondering what could have been, but it looks really cool. Command & Conquer Saga. Romanov, I'm aware of Incursion. I've been fascinated and looked into the game heavily. Oh man, I would love to hear more about what you know about that, because I know very little about Incursion. Other than I think Cabal was supposed to make a return, and I think the Forgotten were as well. Classic player, if you looked at the mission Deceit.
Sir.
Which game was that from again? Was that Tibdon or RA1? I'm trying to remember. Trevin Lane says, you could capture Kane's base, you still have 4 engineers. And that's what I plan on doing. Romanov, one of the potential origin stories for the Tacitus they had is that the Scrin separatists brought us to Earth eons ago that were against the idea of constantly being pumped with Tiberian killing alive. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Michael Girdle, the USS Arizona Memorial does still exist in RA2, so that's something to favor. Yeah, exactly. I think it's pretty much... Gosh dang it, Nod's back. I think it's pretty much implied that that is exactly the case. The Pacific War absolutely still happened, and now I want to see it. I want to see it.
Yes, sir.
Silos needed.
No problem.
I don't need silos, I need more Titans. When you say silos needed, what you actually mean is not enough Titans.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Video Crow's Nest. The fact that Tacitus heavily suggests aliens have been coming and going from Earth for a long time allows Kane's backstory to not just be alien or Kane, anomalous human. Yeah, no, I like the idea that the Scrin have encountered Kane before, so even if Kane is not an alien, he could still show up in their database like he does in the Scrin campaign of CNC3, and that doesn't contradict the biblical Kane theory. I like that idea. The 2 Iwo Jima Memorial Victory statues. Yep.
Orders received. Yes, sir.
Trevin Lane, there is still some SAM sites on the island. I will try to destroy them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Command & Conquer Saga. HSC Snowman, probably just as much as anyone who's looked into it, as there's a lot of info available online. Yeah, I suppose that makes sense.
Ready.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. What a timeline we found ourselves in.
Yes, sir. No problem.
Romanoff, it's funny that the iOS RA3 game had some weird Rising Sun versus Allies mini-campaign as the first chronological war in the newly created RA3 timeline.
Yes, sir.
Oh, really?
Unit ready.
I have to look into that. I know there was an RA3 like mobile game that was made that was actually supposed to explain the war that led to the Soviets building the time machine and creating the RA3 timeline. I wish that was made into a full game because that was basically the next game in the RA2 timeline that we never got to see.
Unit ready.
Rancor Memorial. Or Glusman, isn't the Empire of the Rising Sun from an alternate timeline, so how does it work with the Pacific War? No, I'm not saying it's literally the Empire of the Rising Sun. I'm just saying it would be a US in the RA1 timeline fighting a Japan in the RA1 timeline. So it would be fun if they had some like technology and stuff that alluded to like they have the potential to become an Empire of the Rising Sun, but obviously don't become that in this timeline. I just think that would be cool. All right, guys, time to save. We're going to end the campaign. Here and here we go.
No problem.
Building captured.
Let it go.
Still giving orders, Commander. Really should learn to pay attention. I have your mutant and I have your wound.
Kill him! Forget about me! Don't let him win!
Your mission's grounded. It's over. Only delaying the inevitable. I have the Tacitus. I am invincible. The Tacitus told me of Tiberian missiles, of invulnerable flying ships, of real-time genetic mutation. More than alien, more than human. The next step in our evolution as a species. You're not God, Kane. No, I'm not God. I'm a close second. I am the future. The Tiberian Sun has risen. Not in my world! That's an order. Will it work? Right? I'd also kill her.
We have to test it. It could save my people. If this is a fight. Thanks, Pink.
I love to win.
Not bad for a blunt.
And there it is, boyos. Give ourselves a round of applause. We made it through. As I, HHC Snome, claim victory with a 232% mission efficiency. How do they even calculate that? What does that even mean? Also, good point, Chase Baker. What did they do with the world-altering missile? What the heck? Like, that's a... They must have immediately dismantled it, because I gotta believe that Cabal would have wanted his hands on it if that was even an option. Yeah, nice work, everyone. Congratulations. Yeah, I don't know, Alex. I don't know what he's saying. I have your mute and I have your. I don't know what he's saying. Maybe he said orb, like Tacitus. I don't know what he said. Mission efficiency probably was just made to shame new players who barely made it through the missions. Yeah, give you something to strive towards. The score at the end is calculated based on how much money you harvested. Ah, interesting. Well, thank you guys for being with me on this journey. Really appreciate it. Like I said, next stream I do, whenever that is, we'll begin the Nod campaign, which is different because pretty much every other Nod campaign in the Tiberium series has some element of canonicity to it. Like the first Tiberian Dawn one, most fans agree that the Nod campaign is mostly canon up until like the final mission. And then obviously Firestorm and Tiberium Wars, they all happen concurrently and are fully canon. Tiberian Sun is kind of the outlier in that it's the only Tiberium timeline, I guess if you don't count Red Alert 1, where it's purely a what-if campaign. I think the only part of the Nod campaign in Tiberian Sun that you can count as canon is all the stuff with them reuniting and defeating Hassan. I think all of that still happened in the GDI campaign. And second, I think it is absolutely 100% accurate that this is what Kane wanted to have happen. This is what Kane's goals were. This is what he would have done if he had not been defeated by McNeil. So, it's still super important. It's still super important for understanding what Nod was like during this time, what they believed in, what their goals were, what Kane's goals were. So I'm super excited to go through it with you guys at some point. Trevor Lane says, it's based off the value of the credit structures and units you have at the end of the mission compared to the start. Gotcha. Michael Gordo says, no problem. I love going through your streams. Thank you. Video Crow's Nest says, I wonder what Slavic was doing during the Tib Sun GDI campaign. Yeah, it's interesting because, like, Umagon and McNeil are shown in the Nod campaign, but Slavic isn't shown during the GDI campaign. But he was definitely there because he shows up in the Firestorm campaign, so he definitely lived through the entirety of the war. Or Gloobin says, hey, do you think that canceled Tiberium incursion can be reworked into a real fourth game of the series? Probably not. From what I gather, it was very early in development, and there's probably not a lot there. Now, the Tiberium FPS that EALA was working on, from what I gather, that was like 80 to 90% finished when they canceled it. Like, that's a game I would love to see brought back into the light. Also, it reminded me a lot of Star Wars Republic Commando with the adaptable gun. I feel like that would have been so much fun to play. Firehawk Phantom, hello. How's it going, guys? Hey, welcome. Sorry, you caught us kind of towards the end of the stream. We just finished the final GDI mission. Command and Conquer Saga. Alex says, I think Adam Isgreen said that Kane had a deal with the Scrin to get passage off-world by terraforming the Earth for them. When he fails in CNC3, the Scrin would have arrived. Huh, interesting. But yeah, I think it makes a lot more sense that Kane is human. Just, I mentioned this in my Kane video essay. It's the Brotherhood of Nod Part 1, but at the very beginning... Oh, Michael Roto says I'm supposed to be heading out. See you, Snowman. Yeah, see you, Michael. He says, like, oh, I've seen things. The task to show me. Real-time genetic mutation. Flying ships. The next step in our evolution is a species. Like, he's not talking like an alien. He's talking like a human. Video Crow's Nest. Just appreciate Kane building two temples to himself next to one another with the pyramid and the Temple of Nod building. Yep. Gotta have two temples. Gotta have that feng shui. Firehawk Phantom. Oh, I see. Well, I've been watching your lore videos for quite a while. Great fan. So I decided to stop by and say hi. Well, I really appreciate that, Firehawk Phantom. Glad you've been enjoying my videos. The next one is probably a Tiberian Dawn video, so I'm hoping to get that done soon. Trevor Lane says, I have to leave too. I have an appointment. Yeah, no worries. Romanov says, something that is implied with Kane's lies in Tiberian Sun. Show them whose side the gods are on for the Mark II missions. Yeah, I always thought that was interesting. Because I'm going to touch on this when we get there. But the idea that Kane seems to drop the whole act of being on God's side by the time we get to Tiberian Sun. like during Tiberian Dawn, they seem like they're very much trying to imply that they're in alignment with the ideologies of the Abrahamic faiths to try and get as many people on board with Nod as possible. By the time we get to Tiberian Sun, that facade seems to have dropped. Cain is talking about gods. Cain is talking about other stuff. Cain makes no mention to like the real God, or sorry, the Abrahamic God. Other than that final line at the end of this campaign where he says, "No, I'm not God, but I'm a close second." I think by this point the facade is dropped, and Nod as a religion isn't, from God to Cain to Seth. I think at this point they've kind of become a very, I don't know what there's a proper word for it, but like an anti-God organization. It's more about Cain's rebellion against God. It's about humanity ascending beyond the gods. It's about humanity in defiance of whatever higher authority there might be, which is totally in line with Cain from the story of Cain and Abel. And I think that was always Cain's belief. I just think he had to kind of keep it under wraps during the Tiberian Dawn era. But I think by the time we get to the Tiberian Sun era, it very much is about humanity's ascendancy and rebellion against whatever higher order there might be. At least that's my take, and I have to do more research to see if that's something I want to put into the Nod videos going forward. Classic Player says, Snowman, is the stream taking place at a GDI airbase? Apparently, a lot of planes going over. Also, I think there's an air show going on nearby, so that might be it. Firehawk Phantom, Cain just throughout the series has multiple personas. He does, but there is, I think, a line of consistency even in the EALA games. Command & Conquer Saga says, stream is finishing just in time. Gotta head out too. It was fun chatting with you. Looking forward to talking to you on Discord and by email. Thanks for the stream, Snowman. Yeah, awesome. CC Hyper says hi, by the way. Oh, hey, nice. That's so cool. That's so cool. Okay, before I go, guys, I'm going to say one last thing before I leave. Sorry the stream is ending early, but I really have to use the restroom. But I just want to say thank you to all of you guys, because you have given me a platform to talk about my favorite franchise that meant so much to me as a kid. This was really a way for me to, just sort of go back to memories of when I was a kid, playing these games with my dad and my older brother. And from all the comments from you guys, it seems like you guys have a lot of similar memories. And not only that, but this is a way for me, apparently, to be able to do things like talk with my childhood heroes like Joe Bostic, or get in contact with people like Command & Conquer Saga and CC Hyper. Like this is the dream. And I never thought that I'd be doing this when I started making videos. Like, I started first making a video essay on Assassin's Creed 3, and then on a whim decided, oh, let's do a video essay about another favorite game of mine, Tiberian Sun, and then that video blew up, and now I'm basically a CNC channel. And that's all thanks to you guys. You guys have shown up, you guys have consistently been here for the streams, for the videos, commenting, and you guys have helped me out a lot with the lore as well. Those long paragraphs you give in the comments to help me figure stuff out, you guys are just as much like a part of this success as anything. And I just wanted to say thank you, not only for all of that, but also, as you could probably tell from a lot of my posts in the last several months, it's been a rough year, just for me personally. And this channel has been a great place for me to kind of have a positive impact on my mental health. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys. You have no idea what you have been for me just by participating in the channel and sharing your love of this franchise. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And, there's good stuff too, because, things are starting to look up work-wise. Things are starting to look up personally. If you count my last stream, you know that I just got engaged recently. So I will soon be making Mrs. Snowman an official title. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you all. Please continue to comment. The next video is probably going to be a video on the timeline for when the First Tiberium War happened and all the evidence and my take on it. I will get around to that when I get around to that, but that's probably going to be the next video, and then we'll do the Tiberian Dawn or the First Tiberium War video. So, we'll get there, but I am going to try and take that break that I told you guys about, because I need to relax. Chase Gluesman says, in the First Tib War, Israel is a natural country, but Shai Aviv and IDF and Mossad members is part of GDI, but by the time of this Tib War 2, Nod has captured it. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I won't be able to cover every country and their effect from the Tiberium Wars, but I'll see what I can do. Chase Baker says, "Aw, shucks. You're welcome, Snowman, from one CNC fan to another." Yeah, thanks, Chase Baker. Command Conquer Saga says, "Congrats on the engagement, and we're here for you, and it's our pleasure." Thanks, Alex. Really appreciate you being here. All right. Well, that's it, guys.